Welcome back to the 1090 podcast. I have Carlos Vasquez today. I have no plan for an intro. Any ideas for an intro off the top of our head?
Oh, I always start like with a quote, and then
All right, give us a quote.
I'll give you a quote.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's hard when you're put on the spot.
Exactly. But I'm trying to remember this quote that the gentleman that just brought me here was telling me. He told me actually a quote in the car, and I was like, I'm going to use that. And now I can't remember exactly how he said it, but he said something like, "You're never like in novice mode. You're always either against yourself or for yourself," meaning like how you respond to everything. You're never just going through life just in a straight path without either being a positive force for yourself or a negative in everything, whether choices you make, people you invite into your life, how you respond. He said it in a very elegant way, but I can't remember. But that, I think, really resonated with me because it's true.
Yeah, I like that. Kind of like when you were talking, I just saw the image of like that guy with the boulder like rolling down the hill, and he's like stopping it. And I kind of like, it's either gonna move down and run you over, or you're gonna push it up a little bit. But very rarely are you just stagnating. Yeah. It's kind of moving in one direction. That was perfect, man.
That was good.
That's the intro.
Life's 10% what happens to you and 90% what you're going to do about it.
Welcome back to the 1090 podcast. I'm here with Carlos Vasquez, who is, you're a podcaster too.
I am.
And you wrote a book. I want to talk about that probably a little later. But tell us about your podcast. It's what's the name of it? How to Battle. How to Battle.
Yeah, How to Battle, and with Carlos Vasquez. And I wanted to start a podcast where I have an opportunity to interview people who've overcome incredible battles in their life, and through their telling that, people can connect with them through their own struggles and see that, okay, people are going through similar battles that I'm going through right now, and here's how he or she was able to overcome it or handle it.
That's like exactly like our idea here with 1090. I like the name. How'd you come up with it?
Yeah, I came up with the name because when I first got out of prison about 3 years ago, I got out. I had to relearn everything. I didn't even know how to like set up an email so that I can go apply for jobs. So I YouTubed everything.
YouTube University, baby.
I went to YouTube University, how to do everything. So I said once I started my business in my brand, I was going to do How to Battle, because I feel like that I wanted to be a platform where people can go when they are dealing with battles in their life and learn how to overcome those. So
I like the design. It's like this profile face, and then in the head, it what's going on? Like, explain it. Why'd you pick that for your logo?
Yeah, it's like because these are like landmines, and it's like a representative of the brain, like where like our brain is full of different landmines within there, and when we go through life, certain things cause those landmines to explode. Certain things trigger that, and so it's being able to navigate around those, because everybody goes through something. Everybody's dealt with something, has like a story or a pain, a struggle. And a lot of times people just don't know how to navigate around those landmines, and they end up stepping on one, and then it's the destruction of their life and others. So How to Battle is like a representation on how to like navigate through those and make it through and win and win the battle within yourself and around you.
Pretty well spoken guy for 17 years of prison, and like,
right?
I think when it comes to like this idea of learn how to battle, I think like for me, like what do you do, or what do you tell people, or what have you done when like it's a battle you don't want to do? Like, I don't want it. Like, that's something I struggle with, is how do you get it's not really about the winning or the losing of the battle. Like, how do you get people to just try? Like, can you just accept it and just try to battle, and maybe not so much worry about the winning or the losing of it? Because like, you go to prison when you're 19. I'm sure that's something that you didn't like. How long did it take you? Like, okay, I'm here. I actually want. Well, before we get there, sorry, welcome to the 1090 podcast. Like, I'm all over the place. But maybe before we get into that stuff, can you walk us through maybe your childhood?
Yeah.
I know you were kind of in and out of, what are those called? Like, not before you're old enough to go to jail.
Like juvenile facilities.
Yeah, you're in and out of juvie. Just kind of give us, can you explain your childhood a little bit?
Yeah. And I grew up in a really good neighborhood with both my parents, and we're in the medical field and educated. I had my sister, dog. I played baseball, went to Catholic school. Everything was set up for me to succeed. And my father, one day, he left. My mother sat me and my sister down at the table and was like, "Your dad's not going to come back anymore." He decided to leave. And he left.
How old are you?
12. And so after that, everything spiraled. My mother went into a depression. She was forced to take on multiple jobs. We lost our home. She put up this wall, this invisible wall that made me feel like I could no longer be like safe psychologically with her, meaning go and express my feelings and not understanding why things are happening. She couldn't answer. And so I ran away from home when I was 13, and I ended up living in the streets, sleeping in a car by the time I was 14. And in the back of an apartment complex in an abandoned car and in a gang-infested neighborhood. And I got sucked into that life by the men in that neighborhood who shared the same struggles. They didn't have their fathers. And so they became my new mentors, and they taught me how to survive in the streets and sell drugs and how to carry a gun, how to fight. And one in particular person was Chris, who was like my mentor and the person I looked up to most. He was like my brother that I've always wanted, and he was 4 years older than me, so I looked up to him and I, modeled my behavior after him. And when I was 16 years old, and we went into a drug house, and he killed himself playing Russian roulette 5 feet from me. And I remember when he shot himself in the head, like that, we caught eye contact for a few seconds, and he was still alive. And I remember, like, I saw the life leave his body after a few seconds, and then he fell to the floor and bled out. And after that, I went from this kid who was just like troubled to now like violent and suicidal and didn't care about anybody's life, because I carried that guilt and shame of feeling like that I could have stopped him, but I didn't. And then just by the time I was 18, I was on the run for armed robbery, multiple armed robberies, bank robberies, all kind of crimes, and got arrested. And they told me I'd never get out of prison. I'd be doing life. So.
Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Many questions go. I'm so sorry. I have so many questions about your friend and what you witnessed, but I need to go back to your dad. Why'd your dad leave? Did he say why, or was it just a mystery?
Yeah, my father like created another family in secrecy. Like he'd be gone for like days at a time. Then it was weeks. And my mother would always say he was traveling for work, but come to find out he was establishing another life with another family,
like kids,
and
wife,
kids. And then one day made the decision to just choose and left.
And you haven't seen him since?
I saw him when I got out. Like I see him now. Like, and that's what's amazing is that I forgave him, and once I changed my life, I forgave him. When I got out, I reconnected with him, and now I see him, and we're not super close, but he's a new man today, just like I am, and I have forgiven him and moved forward.
You forgiven him? Did he ask for forgiveness, or did he not?
Did. Yeah, he did. He did. He asked for forgiveness, and through his actions and just saying things like he's proud of me. Like he's not the type of man who like shows much emotion, but I can tell through those things that he does and says now that he's just like a different person. So
what? Like you're 12. So you found out when you were 12 that he had another family? Like you found out that young?
Yeah, I was 12 years old.
What is that like? I would imagine like you didn't love me, like our family wasn't good enough for you. Were those the thoughts running through your head, or did you just try to ignore it and not think too much about it?
Yeah, those were the thoughts, like self-blame. Everybody did. My mom, my sister, me, we all blamed ourselves. We were all like trying to find answers, and there was none. And my mother didn't really seek help like she should have for her and us, meaning like getting, help with counseling or none of that. Like it was kind of just deal with
Yeah.
it,
Well, I mean, this is a problem. I mean, this is a big reason why I started podcasting is people don't talk.
Yeah.
Like your mom never could say it out loud. And, it was terrible for her, I'm sure. So like I don't want to be too hard on her. But I think as humans, so much of our problem comes from we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And then because of that, it becomes a guessing game and a blame game. And we kind of torture ourselves with our own thoughts of like what's going on. And oftentimes the thoughts we're coming up with are worse than the actual reality. If we could just talk about it, we'd find that out.
Yeah.
But we don't talk about it. And the more that you don't talk about it, the harder things get. Okay, so, man, I'm just trying to think. Like, I'm 12. My dad comes home. Like, I have a different family. Bye. Like, what the fuck? Okay. So that happens. You run away. You're broken. You're searching for answers. You find this older brother.
Yeah.
Friend. Okay, Russian roulette. Just you and him alone, or like, can you? I know it's hard to talk about. Can you take us back to that day, that moment of how this unfolded?
Yeah, so him and I walked to a drug house, a trap house, and we always went there because that's where people sold drugs, packaged drugs.
You doing drugs yet, or you just selling them?
We were all doing drugs at the time, and we were selling them as well.
What kind of drugs you doing and selling?
PCP, crystal meth, marijuana, drinking, like all that.
And you're 13?
Never did crack or heroin or none of that. But meth was big around that time, so we were smoking that. And when we walked into the house, you just smelled like meth. And the guy sitting next to the 357 Magnum that was on the table was smoking meth, and he was high. And he was already playing before we even walked in. And so when Chris walked in and I stood up in the kitchen, Chris sat down next to the gun. He looked over at Chris, the guy, and he challenged him to, you want to play? And Chris, in that environment, you don't turn anything down, right? Because it's your ego, first of all. It's
you don't want to look weak in front of these guys.
Yeah.
Those are the wrong people to look weak in front of.
Exactly. And me too, because like he didn't want to look weak in front of me because he knew I was like his protege, right? So they played and they played one round with one bullet in the cylinder, and then they played a second round with 2 bullets in the cylinder, and he killed himself on the second time.
So they're spinning this thing, put it into their head, and
spun it, put it to his head, and it clicked the first time.
What's the reactions? Like, are they like, oh, is it fun, or is it like, what is the environment of the room?
Yeah, it's man, it's like it's smoky, and there's music playing in the background. They're sitting there. Chris is there, and this is the thing: is like Chris didn't have any fear in his eyes. Neither did the other guy, but I did, and and it was inside of me too. And I wanted to say stop. I wanted to do everything in my power to take the gun or do what I could, but I just couldn't find the courage to do it because I didn't want to be perceived as weak. And
it's like I'd rather die than especially with the situation you were in, like
and then like they just when they put it to their head and clicked it, it was like it was a look of like pride, I would say. It wasn't like relief. It was more, for me it was, but for them it was more like a sense of like, yeah, I did that. Like I can't be killed, and that was the lifestyle. They're like, I tell people we played Russian roulette, because I played after that. I played many times because I was suicidal, but I lived a life every day that was like that. Just walking to the corner, being in that gang life, that you're at war and potentially your enemies can come kill you. It's Russian roulette, but you just don't care. You don't care about dying in that life. And
it's kind of like, what's Russian roulette? 1 in 6 chances.
Right.
And you're kind of like that. Those are my daily chances anyway.
Exactly.
In this lifestyle. So
yeah,
fuck it.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah, and the people I looked up to and respected most were people that eventually had their face on a T-shirt, and we would go to their funeral, and people would look at them like, like that was a sense of honor, So, in a sense, we all were chasing that. We all wanted to be that person
That's
on the
where you're
T-shirt.
gonna end up anyway.
Yeah,
most likely.
yeah. So he killed himself, and then everything, and when he just changed. Like I got PTSD, and I know it.
Is that just burned in your memory every day? You see that every day?
Yeah, and it, like people say, some things never heal, and I could attest to that. As much as I've worked on myself, and I work with people, and like there's a scar that just remains there that I believe never goes away. But it's just like, are you going to let the scar, keep you down, or are you going to use it to do good? Just like same thing. Like
life's 10% what happens to you, 90%
exactly same thing, and that's why I connected with you so much when I saw you. It's like you're taking something that's so it'll never go away. Like
right.
It's nothing. There's no pill. There's nothing. There's no psychologist in the world. It's like, but you have a decision, like how you go forward. And so that's what I do today. So the pain is still there. I just deal with it different. I don't use drugs, and I don't hurt people to deal with to handle the pain. I create an impact in the world, and that's how I deal with it now.
Let's talk about how you got there, though, because that's not who you were for a long time.
Yeah.
So you continue, you're doing drugs, you're selling drugs.
Mm-hmm.
You join a gang.
Yeah.
How old are you when you joined the gang?
14. I got put on my gang when I was 14 years old.
Is that like they jumped you in?
Yeah. So I got jumped in, which is just something that you do, and that's the easy part.
What did you have to do? Did you have to hurt someone, or they hurt you? Or
yeah, so you get jumped in by 4 people for 4 minutes, and and then they beat you up, and then they shake your hand, and you drink and you smoke and you get high, and you're like, okay, now you're one. But it was like the build up to that was really the challenge. It was like having to prove yourself that you're even worthy to get put on, and that's the part that really people often don't see.
So can you hit these guys back?
Yeah, you can fight back.
So you can fight back.
You can fight, and that's the test. Is like, are you going to fight back? Are you going to run? Are you going to cry? Are you going to ball up? And a lot could be said about a man when they're in a fight, and so that's their way to like measure and see like what kind of person you are. Like you can't win, but are you willing to fight?
Yeah, it's the initiation.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't support gangs, but like it makes sense. Like,
yeah, right.
Like have you ever seen the movie 300? Like, what?
I have.
I mean, there's always some initiation that you have to prove yourself to be this warrior.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. So you get jumped in, or what'd you say? You didn't say jumped in. You said you get put on.
Put on. That's what they call it. Put on or jumped in. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you survived that.
Yeah.
And then you're in this gang. And then I think you went to prison when you were 19.
Yeah. So I got arrested when I was 18, and I went and fought my case for 9 months. I was facing life in prison. Every month I would go to court. They were telling me life in prison because I was a gang member. And in California at the time, when you're a gang member and you do a violent crime, it carries a life sentence. It's an enhancement. It's called a gang enhancement.
So what was the crime that you were charged with?
Well, first, initially, multiple armed robberies. So bank, home invasion, jewelry store robberies, bunch of armed robberies that they had built up evidence against. And then, but they tied in like kidnapping and false imprisonment and all these other things, because in the commission of the robberies, you're tying somebody up and you move them 10 feet. It's kidnapping.
You tie people up?
Yeah.
Pointing guns at people. And
yeah.
Sorry, most of my knowledge of prison and crime comes from movies. So it just is what it is. But like, were you like the nice criminal? Or like I see in the movies sometimes, or are you like, shut the fuck up, or I'll blow your head? Like, or are you like, don't like? I'm just trying to. This is like a bizarre question, but I'm just trying to see you as a criminal. Like, what were you? What was your personality like?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it's so far gone now that it's hard. It's like I have to think and be like,
because you seem like the nicest guy,
right? Yeah.
So I'm just trying to imagine you tying someone up,
right? But I think what it was it's something about. I've always been really like calm and like really just like, you know, even when in those days, like it was always like I wasn't the loud person yelling. It was always like a calm seriousness to me. And I think that people detect that when they look at you and they say, okay, this guy, he's serious. He's not, this is not a game. And I think that's what, like when I used to go and do stuff like that, it wasn't like yelling, screaming. It was just kind of like, you know, they see me, they see the gun, they see my look, my eyes, and they just do what I say type of thing. And even like the home invasion that I ultimately got the time for was the guys we robbed were drug dealers, and they were like well older than me at the time, in their 30s, and they were known drug dealers. There was three of them, and you know they had guns and everything in there, and normally would have shot it out probably, but I think when I went in there, they saw like the seriousness and the severity of where my mind was, that I didn't care about living or dying or killing. So I think people sense that, you know, you just get that feeling, because I never was like that, like, you know, mean looking, crazy, yelling dude. So you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even in prison.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
telling me that, I'm like, I just
Yeah.
cannot picture this guy doing this.
Yeah.
But people change. I like, that's the beauty of your story, is
Right.
you were once in this dark place doing these dark things.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get arrested. Pretty serious charges, but because you're in a gang, they get up to life sentence.
Yeah.
And so you're battling this for 9 months, and then you get, what was your sentence?
Yeah. So I went to court. After about 9 months, I walked into the courtroom, and I thought it was just going to be another turnaround, meaning they were like, okay, life. And then I'm like, well, no. And then I left. But this time when I went in, the district attorney gave me an envelope, and in the envelope was a deal for 20 years with 2 strikes. And he was like, look, and this was in California, when 2 strikes, one more, you're done. You get life automatically.
Yeah, the 3 strikes.
Yeah, and I'm young, going into prison. So it's like almost like setting me up for failure. And so he's like, you have 5 minutes to make the decision. And I remember it was the hardest decision I ever made in my life. But
so you were deciding between accepting 20 years
with 2 strikes,
or what was the other thing you were deciding?
then if I said no, then I would continue to face life.
Oh.
So, but facing life also meant that I can go to trial and potentially have a chance of winning. You know,
you could be sent
I
away
could be
for
sent,
life.
exactly. But signing that 20 years was kind of like there's no way out of that. Like you take
You're
that,
done.
you're done. You got to go do 20 years, period. And so yeah, I went and I remember I looked at the 20 years, and I was 19 at the time now, and I'm like, damn, this is longer than I've been alive. And so the time was different back then. When, you know, when you're young, you can't imagine like 20 years, right?
That's
Like right now we can, because we
Right.
could see, oh, when I'm 20
That's
years.
literally a lifetime for you at 19.
Yeah.
Like you're looking at
Yeah, it's my whole life.
your whole life.
And I'm like, and then I know how bad prison is, and I know I'm going in with 2 strikes. But I remember like looking in the courtroom, and I was like, I had nobody there, no support, nobody there to say no or yeah. And so the decision became real easy at that point. I was like, I don't have nothing to lose. So I took the deal, and I was on my way to prison shortly after.
For 20 years.
Yeah, for 20 years.
What's what's your game plan? Like, keep your head down for these 20 years, or you have gang members in there, so you have to continue this gang life in prison, or what? Walk us through prison life.
Yeah. No, my
most of my prison knowledge comes from Prison Break season 1.
Okay, yeah.
Like, that's all I know. So help me out.
Yeah, it's funny because somebody earlier today was just telling me they started watching that. Yeah, it's so different. So my game plan going into prison was just learn everything I can to survive, and then continue to build my reputation in there, like with this new identity that I created, this gang identity. So I went in the first day. They put me in the cell with one of the shot callers, because when you're new and you're young, they want to put you with somebody who's been in there for a while to teach you, so you don't get in, you know, into get everybody into a wreck. Because if one person gets into something, everybody can get into something.
Mm-hmm.
So first thing he did was taught me how to make a knife out of plastic. Second thing he did was taught me how to stitch up a wound in case I got stabbed. And then third thing, he taught me about pressure points and like where to stab people so you can kill them during a riot, or if you need to take somebody out. First 3 things I learned, and I was just like soaking it up and wanted to learn, because I knew I was going to be in there for probably forever. So I just got so deep into that world. And for 10 years, I was just in and out of trouble. I was getting, signing up, meaning I was like anything, any issues, I was signing up to go do it, to remove people, to hurt people, going to the hole, getting out. And eventually I became like how he was. I became a shot caller in prison after 10 years, meaning that I had the power to where I can like have somebody stabbed if I wanted to, or um, make big decisions with people's lives. It's just like, and that position came to me without me really wanting it. I think the reason, and I never was the biggest, baddest looking dude, and I didn't, in prison, like this dude's way bigger than me and badder looking, in there for way worse things. But the one thing I learned that in prison, it's not about that. The people that are the most dangerous are the ones that really are like, it's like chess, can beat you mentally,
Yeah.
can outthink you. And so I was always that person. And I ended up getting the position of leadership. And that's why I ended up going to solitary for 3 years, because I got validated, which means that you become a danger to the institution because, you have too much power to have things done. So that's why I ended up going to solitary confinement.
Solitary, this might just be a dumb question because I've never experienced anything like this. Solitary confinement sounds awful, but like at least you're not getting stabbed, like you're not looking over your shoulder. Is solitary confinement worse than, what would the opposite be, just being in regular prison?
Yeah, it's in a way it is, but it isn't. And you're right.
I think like your mind, you'd go crazy, right?
That's the thing. It's like you're kind of relieved because, like you said, you don't have to worry about now like stepping outside of your cell and somebody stabbing you, or like having to deal with the politics and the drama that prison creates. You're just alone. So you have that peace. But after a while,
how long is a while? 8 hours, 18 hours, 8 days?
Well, for me, I had already been going in and out of the hole for like months at a time. So I knew how to do whole time, meaning that I would like just get into this zone of like just disconnect and just stop thinking about time or anything and just be in my own world. But when you're like faced with 3 years, it's a different thing. It's like imagining doing that same thing every single day. Nothing changes. Everything looks the same. For 3 years is different than like 6 months. So it was hard, but I was still like, and mentally I felt like I could do it. But everything changed when I was in solitary housing unit for like about a few weeks. And I remember, it's really quiet. You don't hear anybody except there was a noise down the tier. So I remember I made a fishing line and I sent it down the tier, and whoever was in the cell pulled it in. And then I was just introducing who I was, like myself. And I remember he wrote back, and I remember his name is Brother Malcolm. And I never saw him, but I know I knew his name because of the message he wrote. But he told me that when he first came to solitary, they had told him he was only going to be in there for 1 year, but he was in there for 30 years already.
30?
Yeah.
Solitary confinement for 30 years?
Yeah, he'd been in there for 30 years.
Or did they give you like outside time, rec time? Like what does that look like for solitary confinement?
Yeah, so in solitary confinement, you go to a shower every 3 days, and then you're like, when you go to the shower, you're cuffed up, and then you're in a shower, and then there's a guard that watches you, and then like you come back, get cuffed up, go back to your cell, and then you go to kennels. Like every other day, you can go out to a kennel cage that is not even outside. It's really like just outdoors, but then it's covered, and then you're like in a kennel cage, and that's where you're able to get like outside, it's really just designed so that they can tell people like, yeah, they go out, but you're in a cage. Yeah. And so he had been back there but then eventually you just don't even go out there. You're like, why? Because and then so yeah, he told me that, and he said he was in there for the same reason I was. He got validated. He was a BGF, Black Guerrilla Family, and he got validated just like I did. And once you're validated, they don't ever have to let you out of solitary because there's no laws and rules. It's just you go to a committee every year and they say yes or no. And if they don't like you, or if they had a bad day, or if they just, and these are people who don't want to let you out. These aren't people advocating for you. So every year he would get denied at 30 years straight. And so for me, 3 years, just that went out the window. I figured they'd never let me out of there. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, you probably appreciated being able to communicate with this guy in solitary confinement, but then you're like, well, shit, like the things he's telling you is not good. Like, how am I gonna be in solitary confinement? So what kept you going in these moments where it just seems so, I don't even know what the right word is, so terrible, so alone?
Fucking inhumane.
Yeah.
It's, you know what it was for me? It was actually, so after I had the conversation with him, we never talked. It was always notes. I was like, you know what? I got a letter from this young kid that I had influence over when I was out. So, you know, when I was out, remember Chris was my mentor, you know, and then I became a mentor to another younger kid that was 12 years old, and his name was James, and he used to follow under my name, my footsteps. And he wrote me a letter, and I got it when I was in solitary. And in the letter, he was like thanking me for teaching him everything I taught him, but he was writing me from prison, and he had just gotten 2 life sentences, and he got them when he was 15 years old because they tried him as an adult. And so at that point, like I felt that, like I not only, you know, was I hurting other people directly, but like I was affecting other people's lives. Like what I taught him led him to go to prison for the rest of his life, where he's still at, because of my influence. That, and then just everything mentally caught up with me, and I was like, I'm just going to end my life. And if I could have, I would have ended it that night. It's just, you can't kill yourself in solitary confinement.
Yeah, like,
there's no way. They design it. They don't want, it's too easy. They don't want,
hang yourself, there's nothing to cut yourself with.
Yeah. So there's one opportunity, and I was going to do it when I go to the shower. So I was waiting for my shower day.
How are you going to do it?
With a razor, because this particular guard, when he worked, he would, because they give you a razor to shave, but like I said, they watch you and they're observing you when you're doing everything. But this particular guy would always turn his back because he gave you that respect, you know, like he was one of those guards that was like, all right, I know I'm supposed to watch you, but I'm going to give you some respect and turn back. And I was going to take advantage of that, and I was going to end my life there, or try. And I planned it. I wrote a letter to my mother apologizing for everything I put her through, and I put it in my property because I knew when they found me dead, they would give my property to my mother because she was my emergency contact, even though we hadn't talked. She's the only person I knew. And then I remember 2 days before I was going to go to the shower, a chaplain came to the solitary housing unit. And it was a chaplain. It was around Christmas time, and he came down there, and he was handing out Christmas cards and trying to talk to people, and nobody wanted to hear anything. They were just like, you know, you could tell, like they were just, God, we don't care about God back here. God doesn't exist. And he came to my cell, and he called me over, and he just, like, I don't know, he told me like the exact words that I needed to hear to just get me through like one more day. And he was just like, you know, God has a purpose for you, and you know, you have something great within you, and just figure out what that is. And he challenged me to figure it out. He challenged me not to give up. And I didn't even tell him I was going to kill myself. He just felt something, and he gave me the Bible. And I think his belief in me and something that I didn't see, like, gave me a purpose to start reading it. And then I opened it, and I remember one of the first verses that really stuck out to me was Matthew 7:7-8, like, just, you know, ask and you shall receive, knock, the door will be open, seek and you will find. And it's like, that gave me some type of like hope. And I was like, okay, let me just get up every day and read the Bible, and maybe something will come from it. And I did that, and I started to change the way I was thinking, and I started to bring, my hope came back. And then for 3 years, I was blessed because one of the guards used to come by and see me reading my Bible, and he was a believer, and he would come talk to me, and we'd have those conversations. And then he started to bring me books that he was reading while he was back there on guard, books that people read today, like Think and Grow Rich, you know, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, those type of books. And he would share those books with me. And
so now you're starting to read a lot.
So I'm like opening my mind up and visualizing myself like in a different life, and reading like Man's Search for Meaning, reading his struggle, Viktor Frankl's struggle in the concentration camps. And like, I'm like okay, if he can do it, I can do it. And it gave me hope. And then it changed everything within me. And then I went to the committee 3 years, and they let me out, and went in there not even wanting to get out, not expecting to get out, but it happened. And
the old Shawshank routine, with Morgan Freeman when he's like, "It's just a fucking game."
Yeah,
and then they finally let him out.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing. It's like when you just, because I didn't care anymore. I was like so at peace mentally at that point.
I want to get back to the chaplain real quick. Do you ever know what he looks like? Ever found out his name? Know him at all?
Yeah, I never saw him again, but Chaplain Gomez, it was his name, and I remember what he looked like, but I never saw him again because after I got out of the SHU, they sent me to another prison, and never saw him again. Never.
Like he has no idea what he did for you.
He has no idea.
Yeah, I think that's some like. Yeah. I mean, you're doing this podcasting now and really making differences in people's lives. I think that's just a cool story for you to remember. Like, you're impacting so many people that you're never going to even know. Like, that guy influenced you. And that's kind of the point of life, or at least one of them, is like this idea of paying it forward. Why do you think him saying such a simple thing impacted you so greatly?
Yeah, I asked myself that, and I think it's because I was just like looking for some reason to live. And
I think, sorry to cut you off, but like you feel so alone. You're literally planning on killing yourself. You write this letter to your mom with the idea that you'd be dead when she's reading it. And then this stranger is like, hey, like, keep fighting, give it. I bet like that just felt like you felt heard. You felt like someone noticed you, and that was enough to keep going for one more night. Yeah, I think that's powerful.
Yeah, it's the power of like the individual. I think that the most powerful people are always like, for me, have always been the ones that come into my life for like moments at a time, or like even a short period. Even now, like I meet people and they're just like a brief conversation or something they tell me, it changes everything. And it's just. So he came to me, and so I always look at like, how can I be the chaplain in somebody else's life?
Yeah, wow.
Every day. And I'm like, how can I go do that?
Because I bet like that chaplain goes home and his wife's like, how's work? He's like, it's whatever. He's like, he has no idea. He's like, I saved this guy's life. He's going to go on and make a podcast and this whole trickle down effect.
Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of make it out of solitary, you get back. But how many years left do you have with your sentence? Though?
Yeah, so I got out of solitary, and I knew when I got out of solitary confinement, I had to go back out there and tell, the powers that be, the people who were in charge, the shot callers, that I was no longer a part of that life. I knew I figured I'd probably get killed for that, but at the same time, because you just don't walk away when you're that deep in it.
Like you used to be the man in charge, and now you're back out. Like the men in charge don't want you around.
Right.
It makes sense.
Yeah, and it's like then it's like you so committed to something that it's like there's really no way out, but unless there's some type of bloodshed. And so I knew that something was going to happen to me. I didn't know what. I figured I'd probably get killed, but I felt okay with that at that point in my life. I wasn't afraid of that. I felt like at least if I died the man I wanted to be, free from that. Regardless if anybody would ever know, I felt okay with that. And so I did. I told him that I was no longer part of that life, and I walked away. And then I got stabbed twice the following days. Well, not by them directly, but they sent somebody at me, but two people at me. But I knew something was coming, but I survived it, and I literally
walked. Where'd they get you?
In my stomach and in my leg, and I literally walked back to my cell and stitched my wound up.
Good thing that guy taught you how to stitch yourself up. Jeez.
Exactly. And healed. And then I went back out and I started to do my first programs. My first coaching literally was in prison with lifers. And the first 3 or 4 men in my podcast were some of those men in that group.
Wow.
All lifers. And they were completely in that world of gangs and all that. And me being able to share everything I learned in solitary with them kind of sparked something in them, and they saw somebody who was once like them change. And that's when I knew, like, okay, I got out 4 years later, and I was like, okay, I know I'm getting out with nothing and I got to start over. But I have something valuable. I just have to figure a way to get it out there.
And that's where you come up with
How to battle. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
For a fact, came up with how to battle. Yeah. Then I started to learn. I actually learned business. I went to business school to learn how to make a business.
In prison or?
No, when I got out, when I first got out. And I was fortunate to meet people that could start to connect me with opportunities. And I got into school through a scholarship, and I learned business. And then a part of learning it, you create one. And then once you're profitable, they connect you with an opportunity to pitch at Google for money for your business. And I did. And I ended up getting the funding and met more great people. And
wow,
it's just like, and then learning at the same time, trying to catch up and learn how to use smartphones and technology. And so I just, every day I just worked so hard. And
so you've been out 3 years now?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to get to the podcast and the book you wrote and you're 90%, but like I just have to ask, you leave prison after 17 years. After 17 years.
17.
What's the first thing you ate?
Good question. Steak. I had a steak.
Yeah, good
steak.
pick.
Yeah.
You remember like where you went? Or?
We stopped at like some place on the way back from the prison. It was like 3 hours from where I was going in LA, and stopped at like some diner or something. And it wasn't now. I mean, I would say it wasn't a really good steak because I've had some really good ones.
The best.
But back then, it was like the best. Yeah, it was a great steak, man. And actually, yeah, I'll never forget that. But
is the day getting out just so good?
Or yeah,
what is that like?
Man, it's really it's not. It doesn't even seem real. So it's kind of like feels like a dream. So it's like asking me like if I told you about a dream and you're like, how did that feel?
Right.
It's like it doesn't seem real.
Was it tough adjusting back? Like part of you was like, I'm used to the prison thing. Like I have to make my own choices today. Like was that weird?
It's tough. It's tough. It absolutely. And that's why I feel for people that are getting out after so much time. And I try to help them as much as I can. But I also I knew that I had overcome the biggest challenge of my life. So everything else seemed like it was nothing. And I approached everything with that mindset. And things that people would seem are intimidating, like, trying to create a resume and go apply for a job, things that people like getting out of prison. I've never had a job. I never had a job in my life, like to that point. Never. So like, but for me, I'm like, I could do this. Like, this is not hard because I already overcame something that's the most challenging. So what do I need to do? Let me figure it out. Who do I need to contact? It's no excuses mindset. And I'm like, still have that to this day. And I think if people have that, then you can really accomplish anything and learn anything. Because I literally started over, right?
Yeah. And you wrote this book. What's the book called?
Well, the first book I wrote was The Price.
Yeah.
And that book is about I talk about trauma in that book. And The Price is an acronym for the 5 principles that I learned while in solitary that I started to apply into my life. So it was a structure, and each letter represents something. So the first one is purpose. So figuring out what your purpose is. And for me, my purpose in solitary at some point was just to get home to take care of my mom, because my mom was homeless, didn't have anywhere to live. Like, it wasn't about me. I didn't love myself enough to do it for me. It was about somebody else. So I figured what that was for my purpose. I just thought about her, and it got me up in the morning. And then the second one is routine, creating a routine that I know is going to make me grow. So every day reading, every day praying, every day working out, those things that I know are going to help me get through that time. And then the third is inspiration, reading inspirational books, because I needed to find other people out there who had overcome challenges in life, because I needed to see like what they did, how they figured it out. And that inspired me through my struggle. And then the fourth one is confidence. So building confidence. And for me, stepping out of solitary and going to the people that I knew would probably kill me and telling them I was no longer a part of that life took a lot of confidence, right? And so I had to like build up to that. I had to become a new person to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's what people need to do.
Yeah, and your journey's giving you confidence. Like,
Yeah.
Starting a podcast, writing a book compared to 17 years in prison, that's nothing.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, like the
So-
confidence that hell's giving you.
Yeah. And then lastly, education. So always being a lifelong learner. Like, and I knew that education was like the great equalizer of life. It gave me a shot at my dreams, and everything I have today is because I educated myself. If I wasn't educated, I wouldn't even be able to be in an opportunity to pitch at Google to get money for my business to grow it. I had to work hard and educate myself to know like how to respond to answers to questions about everything, like how my business is growing, what I project, all these different things. And so those are the 5 things I utilize and that helped me get to where I'm at. And so I wrote them in a book and I started to share them with the youth. That's where I first started my programs. So,
That's so awesome, man.
yeah.
The probability or likelihood of someone who was in prison to go back is crazy high.
Yeah.
But you're not, I mean, not only are you not going back, you're making a huge difference in the world. When you do your podcast, you're teaching people how to battle. I know you just walked us through your book and you gave us price, which I love, by the way. I think purpose, I mean, they're all good, but when you said purpose, that's definitely, that's the big one. Like, and the thing I love with your purpose is you didn't have a great relationship with your mom, right? Like, didn't talk to her a lot, but like, just to get out to be there for her was enough. And I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I think a lot of people struggle because they have a purpose, but they don't they don't appreciate it. They want a bigger one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, like you're a dad.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, talking to my friends or whoever, like there's no better purpose than that. Yeah. Or there's no, I mean, it could be so small, but I think a lot of people, they put themselves through hell because they do this comparison thing and like, well, my purpose isn't good enough. And that's the internal battle that I think a lot of people face is like, what are you talking about? Like, you just need purpose. Doesn't matter how big or little it is, I think. Would you agree with that? Or maybe maybe.
No, I agree completely. It's your why. And I always try to like redefine it because people think purpose needs to be like this huge thing. It could be something small, right? It could be a basic thing, but you have to have some reason to get up every day and go do what you do, or even just get up and go to work. Like, what is your purpose behind everything? And I think that's the number one thing, because I think as soon as you figure out what that is, it kind of sets up for everything else to work out. Because even if it gets challenging, it's like you just stay focused on the purpose and you'll get through it. So yeah, I'm big on that, and I think that helping young people understand that is important.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Losing my family, I struggled with gratitude and still do today, but I used to really struggle with it. Just so much anger and just didn't want to be grateful for anything. I felt like if I was grateful for anything, I was betraying my family in a way. Like, I don't want to say I'm grateful for any type of life that doesn't include them.
Yeah.
Gratitude in your life, what was that like going through prison when, because I remember we talked to Levi Lesky, who went to prison and his journey of in and out of prison. He talked about gratitude and what that did for him. And it just shocked me because he had so little to be grateful for. Mm-hmm. But like the way he explained it was beautiful. Gratitude's something I struggle with. Yeah. What would you say to me, like, to help me be better at that? Or is that something you struggle with? Or how are you dealing with that one? Or when it was the lowest of lows for you, where was your gratitude at? I think there's something to be said for that, like being grateful for something.
Yeah, when I was struggling a lot, I didn't have anything like really I felt grateful for, even because, I was in prison and I was in prison, but I was like, okay, I could still, breathe and talk and walk and all those things. But I didn't even like look at that. I was just like, so like negative in my way of thinking. So I never really practiced gratitude or even thought about it when I was like really deep into my struggle. But once I realized that I started to learn about other people And I learned so much about other people in prison. Like I would be on the yard and I would talk to a guy randomly and we'd start walking laps and he'd tell me things like, yeah, when I was 6, my dad killed somebody in front of me or something. And, or just like horrible things that started to cause me to like think about my own life. And like, as fucked up as it was, excuse me, it was like, man, some people have it worse. Some people have it worse and they're still like strong and pushing. And I was like, that really started to like make me feel a little more grateful. And then when I had my conversion and I changed my way of thinking completely, and even now today, man, I'm just grateful for everything. Like I get up in the morning and I just identify things all around me that I'm grateful for.
I think 17 years in prison would do that for you, like help you see like all the things you should be grateful for.
Yeah.
One more question and then we'll get into movies. Okay. Is that cool with you?
Yeah.
Or how long? Yeah, we're doing good. Yeah. Okay. This is gonna sound weird, but just work with me.
Okay.
Okay, like you have a time machine and you can go back to any point of your life to help yourself. Like you can pick the moment of time. Like I want to go back to this moment of time. And if you put me there and I did things differently, I think my life goes a different direction. Where would you go? What point in your life would you go back to?
It's a good question. I'd say I would go back to the day I was gonna ran away. I think that if I can go back and tell my younger self or be that younger self and just say like don't go, and just try to like get help, ask for help, reach out to people I know, reach out to a coach, get it back into sports, talk to people and say, hey, I'm going through something. I feel these things are going on. My dad left and my mother's depressed and my sister's, a drug addict and she's 16, like, and get the help. Somebody would have mentored me and guided me differently. I tell people the difference between a young person, two young people growing up in the same environment, gang infested environment with the same situation, the difference between one succeeding and one failing is that one of them the one that succeeded had a mentor. That's it. That's it. They had somebody that believed in them before they believed in themselves. They had somebody that said, let's go do this. I'll expose you to this. I'll help you through this. I'll guide you. Don't let me down. That changes everything. And I think that at that age, if I would have just made a different decision and went and did that, I would have had a whole different life. But then again, I feel like I'm living my purpose. So I think I was meant to go down that path.
Right? Yeah, like would you just say no time machine, like this is where I'm at? Would that probably be your truest answer? Like no, yeah, like there's no going back?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, for sure. As much as I would love to go back and stop Chris from killing himself, as much as I'd like to go back and stop so many things from happening in my life that, cause so much hurt and pain, I think that some things are just bigger than what we understand, like on just a deeper level than we can truly even comprehend. Like, and I know it's hard to say that, like when we deal with so much, because we want to just go back to things and change things. But I truly believe that that's what like real faith is like just even through those hard times and like just still believing and going forward, man. Like that's hard to do, but yeah, I don't think I would change it if I had the choice. Yeah.
Why is asking for help so hard, you think? And I mean, you're 13 years old. Your dad just did the I can't talk. Does the unthinkable.
Yeah, there you go.
See, just mix it up.
Yeah.
You have every right to ask for help. Like you have every right. This is easy. Like you have everyone expects you to ask for help, but it's so hard. What and I don't have an answer either. Yeah. I mean, I have some ideas, but why is it so hard, you think?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to ask for help because I think that we feel that if we ask for help, we become a burden to others. I think that we feel like we're causing like other people to have to like carry our weight, and we just kind of want to like, no, I don't want to cause any more pain, like, and have other people feel it. I'll just deal with it and hold it in. But I'm a firm believer that like if you ask for help, you actually help people because like you show them that they have value. So I switched my way because I was big on that. I didn't ask anybody for help. I just nope. I was gonna figure it out on my own. But like now when I look at it like that, because I think about the people that come to me for help and how that makes me
That's
feel.
one of your favorite things to do.
Right?
You love helping people.
Yeah.
That's why it's so weird. Is like most people, unless you're just a complete asshole, most people love helping people, or they will if they're asked, especially if it's someone who loves them.
Exactly.
But for some reason, like no, like I'm not asking for it though. And it's such a shitty problem. And like there's a metaphor of buffaloes and cows, and like buffaloes run into the storm and face their problems, and cows run away. And when the cows run away, it gets worse for them because they get tired and the storm catches them, and now they're in it much longer. And that was kind of like you ran from that problem, and your life got worse and worse and worse and worse, and other shit happened too. Some of it outside of your control, like the Russian roulette thing. Yeah. But it kept getting worse and worse. There had to be a moment where you're like, I'm going to start facing this and accepting accountability. Was that happened in prison? That happened. What do you remember when that shifted for you? Where like, no, like I'm going to head into this thing and stop running from my issues. Like you go on podcasts and talk about all of it now.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So like, how do you flip this switch?
Yeah, it's just all in solitary, everything there. Like I think if I hadn't went the solitary, I wouldn't be where I'm at today or who I am. I needed that time to really just be alone with myself and all my demons and all my struggles and all those like my belief systems at the time, and then to challenge them. And the only way I could challenge them was when first of all somebody believed in me. I think that was just the kickstart, and then it was me just like now working every day trying to figure a way out of it, because I remembered the kid that I used to be when I was going to Catholic school and playing baseball. I remember him, and I was like, how did I get to this point in my life? When I was sitting in solitary, I would ask myself that question, and the question would keep me up at night. And I was like, how did this happen? And I could replay everything, but then I'm like, but why didn't I do things different? Like, why did I respond in these ways? Or why did I get pulled in that direction? Or why didn't I, change? And so the whys started to create different like meanings every day for me to pursue. Right. So I started to learn and study and ask these questions and find answers to them. And then that's when I was like, okay, well, now that I have the answers and I have these different ways that I can overcome this, let me now hold myself accountable and change it. Right. And don't care what other people think, or care if I get stabbed, or care if I lose my identity of who that was in that gang life. Who cares, right? It's just like now it's just I'm taking control of my life, and it empowered me, and I just rode that, and I still do. And so now I talk about prison and everything and I'm not ashamed of it. Everybody that knows me knows my story, because it's like I feel that I'm not ashamed of that. I'm like, okay, that was my struggle. That wasn't me. I'm not that person no more. But I'm also representing other people who might want a second chance, and I'm trying to represent that right.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're becoming the person you needed.
Yeah.
Like you needed you.
Yeah.
And that's something I think I have in common with you is, I mean, through podcasting, I've met people like Craig Lithgrow and Jeff Olson, who have lost a lot of family members, like spouse and kids. But I didn't know them before I started podcasting. And I think my search for finding someone that I need was kind of a weird purpose I had, is this is going to happen again to someone. What happened to me is going to happen again to someone, some family.
Yeah.
They need they need someone, because that feeling of being alone is so terrible. And I think you felt that, and now you're trying to become that person that you needed as a kid. And it's almost like you're helping your past self. It's like this weird, it's weird. Like there's a cool quote that says, become the person that your younger version of you needed, or something like that. But I think that's powerful stuff, man.
It is. Absolutely.
What else was I gonna ask? Ryan, do you have any questions for him? Listening to this shit?
I was thinking about asking for help, and I think sometimes it's hard to. It's not the what is okay. What do I need to do? Oh, I need to ask for help. Why? Why do I need to do it? Well, I need to ask for help because if I don't get help, I'm
I'm
going to
gonna
stay
kill
exactly.
myself.
So the what and the why is not hard. I think it's who is what's hard. Who do I ask help from?
Yeah, who can I trust? Who can I?
I think that's what stops people a lot of times, is the who. Because if you just throw it out in the air and say, help, everyone's kind of like,
what do you need help with?
If I look, I need help, dude.
Yeah.
I think that's what stops people a lot. They don't know who.
Carlos, you very similar to me. Like you have this urge to. It's not about you. It's about we. We is greater than me. It seems like you're just kind of in love with helping other people, man, which is great. You came from a very weird, not normal family background. You're out of prison 3 years. What, like, do you want to have a family one day, or you just love being the motivational speaker podcaster? Is this like your life mission? Yeah. Or like, what are you thinking with the rest of your life here?
Yeah, I just feel like that as long as I'm able to continue to help people and impact people, I feel like fulfilled in life. And I think that's the most important thing.
Purpose.
Yeah,
like you said,
you have to have fulfillment in some way. So through speaking, through writing, through podcasting, through coaching people, through creating films, whatever it is, content. And I'm always looking at like, how can I create something or do something to help people? And I don't even, and sometimes I don't even know the people that I'm helping. I just know like,
dude, you have no idea.
Yeah. Like,
that's why I brought up the chaplain guy.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's such a perfect example. Yeah. Like, you're going to help people and never have, you're going to know some people you're going to get the good messages, but there's a lot of people that will never tell you. Yeah. How do you like motivational speaking?
Yeah, I never ever thought I would be a motivational speaker, and I hate speaking. Yeah, like I hated speaking as a kid, and I used to like pretend I was sick on days I had to present because I hated it, and I always like stayed quiet a lot. But and I still like fear public speaking, but the fact that like I look for opportunities to conquer that fear, I think that's why I chase it, because a lot of the reasons why I did crime when I was a kid, robberies and stuff, was because of the feeling I got from it. And I feel like now the only feelings the way I can get that feeling is when I do things that make me scared, like, and I'm fearful of, like public speaking. So I look for opportunities to do it, and every time I do it, I feel a little more confident in myself, and I feel a little bit more stronger and empowered. And so public speaking is like a thing that I love to do, and because it helps me heal, and it helps me to like feel alive, and it helps me to know I'm making an impact. And so I love it for that reason, and I love that it helps people and that people are inspired. But definitely is not something that I would say I ever like aspired to be. Right. It just kind of fell into my lap, and I've embraced it, and I do it, and people say I'm pretty good at it, so I believe in them.
When's your next speaking event? Do you have one on schedule, or?
Yeah, I have one. Actually, I have one Thursday at a drug and treatment facility in Pasadena. It's called Impact.
So cool, man.
Yeah. And these guys, I go every 2 months there, and
you speak at prisons. Like, where you speak in?
So there, which is like a drug treatment facility, I do those. I do prisons, schools, universities, and corporate events. So
you'd be great at those.
Yeah. Corporate events, and it's funny how like I've been able to create that bridge and connection to the corporate world through my story, and I feel like you definitely can do that too. You can, like, your story and your message can impact anywhere, anybody, any audience. And I think there's very few people that can do that. And from what I've noticed, and one thing I've learned about public speaking, what separates like good speakers from great speakers, because there's a lot of good speakers, but great speakers, because there's these, okay, public speaking has rules, right? Supposedly, like if you
unwritten rules.
Yeah, unwritten rules, like don't do this, don't do that.
Don't walk back and forth too much.
Yeah, but you notice that the great speakers can break the rules. Like if you know the rules, then you can break the rules, I guess is what I'm saying. But
you can bend them in your
yeah,
favor.
exactly. But the great ones know how to tell a story and be able to like convey the deeper meaning and principles through the story and connect with the audience through them. So that's what I always aim for. Like, how can my story, my message, everything I've been through, how can I connect through that with the audience and deliver them something that they can feel connection with, that they've been through in some way, So like, I think that's what I've been able to do, and not even really trying it. It just happened. And so I try to like be more focused on that, not like trying to be this perfect speaker that doesn't, say, or that I do it. But the fact is the story and then the passion. Like you can't fake like when it comes from here and it's from your soul and it's just the pain. And that's what when I saw you speak when I see you speak on Instagram, like, and I see your clips, I'm like, you just can't, like, you can't fake that. Like, that's just powerful. So
yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't understand public speaking seminars or classes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand, like, I'm going to teach you, like, because no, like, you already messed it up. Like,
yeah,
this is his story. And I mean, this is just my opinion, but like, I think if you're going to be a good public speaker, you just stay true to yourself. You offer the story that you have, because there's only so many quotes and everyone knows them. Right. It's not like, if you want to be a motivational speaker, there's only one you. There's only one Carlos Vasquez. There's only one Mason Sawyer. There's only one Ryan Gardner. So like, if you want to be a good public speaker, you tell the Mason Sawyer story, because it's the only one you got that no one else has. Yeah. But I think when public speakers try to get too fancy and creative and smart, and they use all the famous quotes and one-liners, it's like, it just becomes like, I've seen this movie before. Mm-hmm. Other people have lost spouse and kids. Other people have gone to prison. Mm-hmm. If we try to tell their stories, it's going to get lost. Yeah. I think the best thing you can do as a public speaker is be yourself, however much you walk on the stage, and you be honest and sincere and vulnerable. You just tell them what's in your heart. And then I think you have to accept that it's out of your hands after that. And you have to accept, not everyone's going to like everyone. Not everyone's going to love my public speaking. Like, that Mason Sawyer guy wasn't great. Like, yeah, you can have that opinion. But I do think to be a good public speaker and podcaster, you just have to like realize and let go that some people are going to love it. Some people are going to not like it. Most people probably won't care, and just let that work itself out. And then not get caught up in how many views you have, how many listeners you have, how much money you're making. Like, you shouldn't be doing it for those reasons, I don't think.
Absolutely.
But anyway, that was a lot of public speaking stuff. I like talking to other motivational speakers.
That's good though. Because that's the side that some people need to hear that probably haven't heard it, because they hear, like you said, all those, take this seminar, do this class, I'll teach you to be the best speaker. But in reality, anybody can do it. Just tell your story. Yeah,
right? I remember one guy's telling me, he's like, there's a service that you can give them your story and they'll help you tell it. I'm like,
yeah,
that doesn't make any sense. Like, what?
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. You got a flight to catch tonight. We don't want to keep you too late. We usually end our podcast with top 3 favorite movies.
Okay.
Before we do that, though, anything else you want to say, get off your chest, mention?
Man, I just look forward to interviewing you, honestly.
I'd love to be on.
Yeah, honestly, like, that's one of my goals, and it's going to happen just like this happened. So
yeah, you say the word, I'll get out there.
Yeah, or I'll come here, whatever we're going to make it happen.
Or you can come to my house in St. George. I got a little studio in there.
Perfect. Yeah.
Bring your swimsuit. You can swim after. It'll be great.
Appreciate that, man. I just want to say, man, I really appreciate you, man, and you inspire me. Like, you and you know, your story, and just not that, but like how you carry yourself after what you've been through, man, like inspires me. So I know I'm not the only one, but I don't know how many people tell you, you know, that's been through some stuff too, that like you inspire me and really just like make me want to just be better and be stronger. And so thank you. And I hope that we can remain in contact. And if I can
Yeah, for
help you in any
sure.
way, I will. And like, you know, I just feel like that, you know, I really appreciate what you're doing, man. And I really feel it, you know, when you speak, it's like, it really resonates with me. And I always, like, anybody that you'll meet that knows me is like, whenever I see something you do, I'm like showing them, like, I was showing my friend that brought me here today, like, you know, look at like what you're doing. It's like, man, it's like, so as even as a speaker and a podcaster, and you know, we could still have people that we, you know, look up
Yeah.
to and admire. And I would say that you're definitely one of those people, man, that make me feel like, man, like we got to keep doing this. So
Well, I
thank you,
appreciate
man.
that, man. That was well said, and
Yeah.
thank you. I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
I think about quitting a lot, so it's nice to get.
Yeah.
You think about quitting a lot? It's hard, man. Like, fuck this shit.
I know, it's funny because I do, and I don't often tell anybody that, because it's like,
I don't. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess that's not true. I just said it. But then, like,
Yeah.
it's literally like comments like that that
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like, we'll
Yeah.
give it another month, or
Yeah.
So I needed that. So
Mhm.
thanks, man.
For sure.
Same goes to you, obviously.
Appreciate it.
We don't have to do movies. You want to do books? You read a lot of books.
Actually, okay. Well,
Or no, we can do movies.
how about we do movies and books?
I like it.
Yeah.
Top 3 books first.
Okay. Definitely Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Top, definitely. I mean, that was a huge book. The Power of Now.
Heard of it, never read
Eckhart Tolle. And I would say New Earth, which is like a kind of like the follow-up to that one. And it just basically, these books were the powerful books in my life when I needed them most. May not even be the best books, but for me in my life, those were the best for me.
I mean, the only book that I've read out of the ones you mentioned was the Viktor Frankl book, Man's Search for Meaning. And I mean, I've never been to prison, but like I would imagine like that would be an impactful book if I was in like the shit that guy went through and the things he had to say about it. Like, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, those are definitely in the top and recommended reads. And they're out, definitely people know them because that's, you know, they're powerful books. But yeah, those type of books I really like, and I still always read.
It's a good list.
Yeah.
Okay, top 3 favorite movies.
I'm gonna start with a movie that my friend made, and it's powerful. It's Sound of Freedom. My friend is the director of that, but it's just, I know how like hard he worked to get it made and just get it out there, and then it sat in a studio for years, and they didn't want to put it out because of the message. And it talks about like child trafficking and then all the stuff that's going on in the world with that, and how nobody really wanted to touch it and put it out there because it was a sensitive subject. And a lot of, and it's funny because a lot of the people that are like in those positions to put movies out were actually like involved in stuff that was like, you know, involving like child trafficking and other stuff and like the Hollywood scene and all that.
Yeah.
So like basically his film was blackballed in a way, but it made it out. Like it broke through private funding and all these people fighting to get it out, and it did so well and successful. And so just like not only is it a great, beautifully made just piece of art, you know, and just tell such a powerful message, but just I understand like the struggle that went into making it happen. So I really love that. You know, The Sound of Freedom. And then I'll say, like I mentioned, Gladiator. I actually did. My friend has a podcast, like a YouTube podcast, where he interviews people and asks them to pick a movie that they feel like some type of connection with. And so I picked Gladiator because I feel like the moment where like everybody has to face their Commodus, you know, when he faced him in the arena, and he's like face to face had to like confront that. I feel like everybody has to confront that person or demon or fear or something at some point in their life. And so I use that, actually, that clip when I speak sometimes as an intro, depending on the audience, as like every, great person has to come face to face with that person they fear most, the most feared man in the world at the time. He had to come face to face to him, knowing he'd probably get killed, not knowing what's going to happen, but like faced him with head up, strong.
Yeah.
So that
kind of like the buffalo analogy that I like so much. Same idea. Like you have to face this thing eventually.
Exactly. So I love that, and just the story of like him, being at top and then going to prison, like becoming a slave and then getting back his way, and he ended up getting killed, but like
he got shanked. He got that's another sin that he got stabbed. So, when it was poison.
I found a connection in that. Because I love the movie, man. It was a great, really made movie.
I'm glad we were able to fit in a stabbing joke.
That's right. Right. That's funny. But I love that, like joking about those type of things, because you
laugh or cry, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've already cried too much, man. I need more laughs in my life. So, those. And then, I'm going to have to say, it's so hard because there's so many good movies, but I say I love the Terminators, man. Like,
great movies.
Like it's just a great.
That would have been your childhood too. Like that would have been, that was set up for you.
Yeah,
a little older for me, but those are great movies, man.
Yeah.
Plus, like the one role that Arnold Schwarzenegger would like crush, like robotic voice, don't say a lot and just be strong and wreck people and. It worked.
So perfect. Yeah. So perfect.
Yeah, that's a good list. I want to watch Gladiator again. I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah.
Carlos, you're the man, dude. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, man.
I wish more people were like you, and like the back half of your story.
Right.
Not the first.
Make that clear, right?
Like the back half of them. No, you're a good sport, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'd love to be on your podcast whenever we can make it work. I'm sure we will.
Okay.
Give How to Battle a listen. How many episodes you got?
7. Going on 8.
Yeah.
Fresh.
Did you make the same mistake we did and not have any? We didn't record any previously. Like we literally were doing 1 a week. Is that what you're doing?
No, actually, I recorded 3.
See, you're smarter than we were.
I learned.
I had nothing, and I'm like, I should have like made 10 and then started posting.
Yeah, I did 3, and then I released each one, and then it just kept going from there.
And then we just buy your book Amazon, or where can I get your book?
Yeah, it's on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check that book out.
Yeah.
How many pages?
Well, the first one is fairly short, but I wrote that for the youth, so it's like I think like 80 pages. The second one is longer. It's called Warrior in the Garden, and but still relatively short, like a little over 100 pages.
I like that.
So they're
title.
short, and they're self-help, straight to the point. I took all the fluff out of it and just made it straight. Like, here's something to help people.
Yeah, I think 17 years.
Yeah.
Took all the fluff out of you.
Like
you're
exactly.
Thanks again, man.
Appreciate it.
Life's 10% what happens to you and 90% what you're gonna do about it.